Thank you very much, Eileen. Thank you, Goethe-Institut, for hosting us. Eileen just, mentioned my name, introduced me. I'm Peter Rosenbaum. I'm the head of the University Alliance Ruhr. We are a consortium of 3 universities in Germany's Ruhr area: TU Dortmund University, Ruhr University Bochum, and the University of Duisburg-Essen. You heard quite a lot about our programs, particularly yesterday when our colleagues introduced, the BA programs, graduate programs in English, in German, in all kinds of fields. And today's day is more about, different career paths. And I want to pitch the idea of having a career in international education to you today, at a time when you might hear, if you are still in high school or, in your first year in college, you might hear from parents or other folks, you got to study something that pays the bills, business, engineering, etc. Well, some of those arguments might be valid. I do want to kind of introduce you to what, the career options within the field of international education, because I think it's a very rewarding field. And I myself am a product of that career path. And I only put myself up here, not because I like to look at myself, but rather just kind of introduce you to what I did after doing my undergrad degree. I went to high school in East Germany. That's how old I am. And I did my undergrad degree in Leipzig at the university, went to a private school in Bath, England afterwards. I did 2 graduate degrees at UGA and at New York University. And then I wasn't quite sure about my next step. So I stayed in academia a little bit and worked for a transatlantic institute at NYU, lectured at a private liberal arts college, Trinity College up in Connecticut. And I found that experience really rewarding. I taught film, German, and German literature and translation. And then I decided to kind of transition into the cultural field and work for a cultural organization, the Goethe-Institut, as a matter of fact, in New York. And I worked as the head of the educational liaison office for 4.5 years, and then transitioned into my current job, higher education, marketing at the consulate, where I represent 3 German universities, the ones that I just mentioned, and I also do some volunteer work on the side. So why would you be a good candidate for a career in international education? First of all, of course, you do want to have an interest in cultures and ever-changing environments. You do have that interest already, because otherwise you wouldn't be listening to us at the Career Booster. Germany, you know German already. You might know a 2nd or 3rd language, which is fantastic. So I would like to encourage you to cultivate your knowledge of different languages and cultures. That's very important for all kinds of careers. You do want to be inspired by travel, study, or work experiences, and believe that intercultural communication can foster peace and social justice. I think this is a particularly important topic for us nowadays. Through your work as an international educator, you don't just reach out to other cultures, but you also kind of, do important work within your own region, within your own community. Where do international educators work? I know that later this afternoon you will hear from German teachers about your career, your possible career as a German teacher. So that would be, a career that you could have at a college or university. You can work as a professor, as an instructor, but there are many, many other options. You can work in an international office and be in charge of international students, outgoing or incoming students. You could be a counselor advisor. You could be a specialist. You can work in a library. You can be a credit transfer evaluator. You can teach English as a second language, either in your country, in the States, or abroad. There are a lot of American schools, international schools. They offer really good salaries, by the way, if you just kind of want to teach for a year or 2 or make a career out of it. I know lots of folks who taught at those international schools in Berlin or anywhere in the world for a few years and then moved on. That can be a really rewarding experience. You can work for an education abroad program provider, such as the Education Abroad Network, as a coordinator, as a teacher, or as a volunteer, if you want to get first experience in the field. Law firms are really interested in multilingual culturally diverse folks who can work as lawyers, translators, paralegals, document specialists. International education associations are interested in you. You have different career paths. NAFs, you know, the second example I'm providing here is like one of the biggest associations for international educators. You can work as a program specialist, educator, as a budget manager. You can work for the US government as a program specialist, teacher, research analyst, administrator. You can work in the business sector. You can work for a city. You can work for an NGO as a policy specialist. So I just wanted to, I'm not going to go into each one of these fields, but I just want to point out that international education offers you, a degree in international education offers you a lot of employment opportunities. So don't just think I'm studying German or some other language for that matter, and thus I have to become a German, Spanish, whatever, French teacher, but you can do so much more with your knowledge of a second, third language, okay? How do you prepare for a job in international education? You do want to have a study abroad experience of sorts, be it a short summer program, be it a semester abroad, be it just kind of right now, for example, because we cannot easily travel. That could also be an online program, a hybrid program where you work on a project together with students in other countries. That is kind of a study abroad experience too, to a certain degree at least. You do want to have a second language under your belt and possibly even know a third language. You want to work as an international ambassador, study, student, volunteer in your school, study abroad office. So there are lots of opportunities for you to get a first encounter with what this field might look like without necessarily having a job in the field, right? So you can really volunteer at your high school, at your college, wherever you are at this point. I would recommend that you do get a master's degree, ideally in international studies, European studies, personnel administration, whatever field you can imagine for yourself, and then kind of, you know, get your first job or move on to a graduate degree or a second graduate degree, depending on your interests. But you do want to have a more, you know, you do want to have one graduate degree in order to be able to get a good job within the field. Software skills are important, obviously, desktop publishing, design, maintaining websites, programming, and being able to manage database programs. What does it take to work in international education? You kind of, you know, depending on the job, if you work as a diplomat, for example, or as someone who teaches at an international school, you want to be flexible about what country you want to work in. You want to be, you know, you have to love airports, trains, and hotels, right? I mean, if you have a job that requires a lot of traveling, you kind of want to look at pay versus benefits. And I'm saying that because some jobs in biochemistry, right, in engineering might actually pay much more. The starting salary might be much higher than, say, a salary for like an NGO or a university, but you might actually have better benefits in terms of, you know, you'll be able to do like a second or third degree at a university for free. If you work at a university, you might have more vacation, et cetera, et cetera. So if you translate all of that into money, it could actually be quite a good salary. So don't just look at the actual salary, but look at the benefit packages and what you could do at that place, even if you don't see yourself there for longer than 2 or 3 or 4 years, right? And then I would also recommend you to be very proactive and send your resume to organizations that you would like to work for. I myself did that. I myself actually contacted one of the organizations where I really wanted to work once or twice. I was very persistent and wouldn't take no for an answer. And then finally they hired me. So do also, if you get rejected by one organization and you are understandably disappointed and they land on your F list, your B list, right, an organization, move them back to your A list. Do apply again, because sometimes applying more than once to the same organization really shows them that you're very interested in them, and they might hire you for an interview. You know, they might invite you for an interview and possibly hire you for the job. Just to kind of point out a couple of options, how, you know, what you could do depending on your level of education, like where you are right now. You could do summer programs. You could do a high school 13th year program for that organization, Youth for Understanding. You could do a summer program through CIEE and earn college credit already up to 4 college credit points. Obviously, you've heard about the Congress Bundestag Youth Exchange Program yesterday. I mentioned volunteer opportunities. Do take this seriously. You can work for programs such as Global Volunteer or Cross-Cultural Solutions. You can check out scholarships for high school abroad programs. I would highly recommend you to do that. You can just click on that link and it's interactive and kind of look at that database. Think about Rotary Youth Exchange, explore volunteer opportunities, or create your own. There are some really cool ideas on dosomething.org, or click on that article on how to create your own volunteer program. Be creative. You have study abroad opportunities. Obviously, the DAAD, we heard from the DAAD yesterday, talk quite a bit about research and internship programs. So check those out. The German government pours a lot of money and resources into providing students with the opportunity to study abroad, both students from other countries and students from Germany, back and forth. Look at Education USA, their internship programs at the Department of State. That could be very interesting and quite rewarding. And obviously look at internships at international organizations and also the United Nations, etc. Fulbright is a wonderful option. Teaching English as a second language, I mentioned that. Peace Corps, all of my friends who spent a year or two at the Peace Corps, that really open doors for them. Okay, so don't underestimate, certain jobs and organizations, even if they don't pay a lot, but they are so prestigious that you do want to kind of maybe do that job for 1 or 2 years, because it'll lead you to much more, interesting, prestigious jobs later on, right? Well-paid jobs as well. As I mentioned, you can intern at an international organization. They have, all of them have like internship pages on their websites that you can check out. In short, how do you get started? Joanne, just a few minutes ago, Joanne Halpern talked about, create your own board, create your own advisory council. So I don't have to repeat that, but that for me is also really important. Friends, but also folks who work in the fields, folks you might not necessarily know already, but meet them, get to know them, create your own network, and most importantly, of course, get the qualifications that you will need to succeed in the field. Languages, management skills are the most important ones. Thank you very much for your attention.